Lane, I know kind of going off kind of your comments last night about the offense with the bye week and these 2 weeks, do you see yourself maybe inserting yourself more into the offense planning than you already have been?
No, I'm not going to say that. I think that a lot of times coaches point to that to try to deflect off of, a situation. So, we're going to look at everything because that's what we do in buys, not because, we lost on the last play of a game in a really hard place to play against a really good team. So all of a sudden we're not going to change everything we do because you guys have heard me say before, when you lose a last play of a game type of game, to me, you need to look at that differently than when you go and lose a game by 21 and, really get out, coached and played and everything. Because sometimes you reach too much because when it comes down to a kick or something, if that one play goes the other way or that kick goes in or doesn't go in, or in this case, there's all kinds of plays right there at the end that if just one goes our way, then we're sitting here and the narrative's totally different. But then you don't want to say when that happens, we don't have to look at things because we won the game. So we look at everything during bye weeks every year within our program, and especially if things aren't going as well as we thought they would. And one of those would be the consistency on offense.
Was there a message today with the team?
Yeah. We were just in here not long ago, and I just made sure that they understood what was going on and look at the whole season together, but and how close they are to being undefeated. And I know a lot of people can say that because if we would have just won this game or this game, but very rarely are games down to the last play like both ours have been, and very rarely, we've been ahead by 4 points in both of them with the ball, and a chance to go make them 2 scores and put the games away and didn't do it. On the other side, it's strange that both games, I think, both have a 4th and 6 at the end of the game on the -19. That had there been a minute more, they probably would have punted, but they realized the possessions are limited because both games are about the 2 to 3 minute mark at that point. And both teams go for it and we don't stop them on the -19 or, we're undefeated. So I just told them there's a lot of plays within the game and that we usually make, and I would have coached better, done different things, and there's plays that, and there's a bunch that stick out. But how often does get one of our fastest guys? I'm not pointing blame on him at all. I'm just saying that play, and it's a play of a lifetime. It should be one of the. I know LSU's got a lot of wins in that stadium, but that should be a famous play. Nussmeier makes an unbelievable play. It's 3rd and 10. It's going to 4th and 24. It's going to be 4th and 24. That game's probably over. And he somehow gets away from him and throws the ball back across the body, makes an unbelievable play. Or the game's probably over. So I say that so that when you ask about changes and why we don't overreact because of all that. So, and I encourage our fans. I encourage our fans to, stick together. Again, we're talking about one play game, or else saying what a great win and a hard place to play, and a place we hadn't won in 16 years. I think they said hadn't won at night in 23 years. These kids weren't even alive last time there. So that kind of shows you that's been a hard place for Ole Miss to play, and we were ahead the whole game and one play away from closing it out. So a lot left to play for. It's a really good. Told them you're a really good team. We're just not finishing like a great team would, or we're undefeated right now.
With the defensive line being so good, all the nation's lead in sacks and all that, were you able to pinpoint on film maybe why there weren't any sacks? What was different about the pressure?
Well, one was the game plan. We dropped into coverage a lot more, a lot of 3-man rush, and that was, we knew they were going to throw a lot. Wanted to give Nussmeier different looks than what they probably had game planned for coming in, because we had been a lot of pass rush, a lot of pressure and man-to-man, and we went away from that as a game plan, and it worked. I mean, I think, the first 5 series, maybe they don't score, and 3 of those series are 3 or less plays, because there's a 2-play, I think, interception. So it was a great game plan, and it really worked. And when you play that way, you're going to hopefully limit their completion numbers, which was under 50% completion, but you're not going to get as many sacks. And then we had some things where we were close, and I just talked about the one that Perkins is on him to go to 4th and 24, or really the fumble that they rule a fumble, that's a sack. And then I guess they overturn it to an incomplete pass, so we're right there on that too. So we were around there, and they have a great offensive line too.
Last night, you mentioned blocking being something that's been a little bit of an issue. Is that something that can be fixed or improved halfway through a season significantly?
You say blocking?
Yes.
Sure it is. Everything can be worked on and improved. And like I said, in the bye, we look at all things, and we've definitely already started looking up front. Now, up front, some of that's injury-based too, because we've had, 2 returning starters have been out for a few weeks, and so that hasn't necessarily allowed us to, make moves that we may have made otherwise. So I think there'll be some changes there.
Aside from the offensive line, do you think Jackson's recent struggles, maybe in these last 3 games at least, are more of a product of him trying to do too much or not doing enough?
I would say, if anything, it'd be do too much. I think there's a little bit, so much excitement in the game, and then, went well early. He gets a tough drop that a play Trey makes 99 out of 100 times and scores. And so I think he did force a little bit, but also, you feel like the interception's forced because it feels like it at the time, but then when you see it on the iPad and understand, he sees the safety take the over and he sees Juice, so he's throwing a post, and Juice is running by the corner, and the corner grabs him and restricts him from running, so now it looks like a terrible throw, and it's a, everyday PI call that they didn't get. So you got to take that into account too, but because it seems, and I'm certainly when fans saw it, probably seems like, oh, he's just forcing that throw and it's an interception versus, what really should have happened.
Coach, I know you don't talk about individual injuries, but general rule, is your team fairly healthy through 7 games, and do you think this open week will bring anybody back?
I do. I think it does come at a good time from a physical standpoint. Now, obviously, I'd always like to win going into buys for the feeling of it, but, we've now played a couple weeks without the starting left tackle. We played without Princely, who you certainly think would have probably made a difference in a 50-pass game, when he's an elite pass rusher. So, yeah, Jeremy James, after 50 starts, has been out. So I definitely think that it's coming in a good time, and I think we look to get all 3 of those guys back.
This is a Bentley question, I guess, but it's a little different. The television broadcast after the 50-yard run caught you and Kevin Smith having a brief interaction, and a lot of people are wondering what that was. Was that anything other than just excitement, or was there something to that?
Well, what did they say it was? I don't know.
Well, a lot of people were wondering whether it was a commentary about his lack of playing time prior to, I guess, that run.
I don't know. It was an exciting moment, especially because it was 4th down and for Bentley. And, you could see, his, he just kind of his release, because he was frustrated not playing, and frustrated that when he had played, he hadn't had much production when he played earlier in the year. So I was just extremely excited for the moment, but excited for him. I actually just finished meeting with him and told him how proud I was, how he handled adversity, and how well that he played in the game. So I'm sure I was just excited.
Coming off of a 1-play game, like you said, where do you sense this team is at mentally heading into the bye week?
Well, I think that's my job as the head coach of where they're at mentally. I think they were really bad when they came in. And I had to say, hey, this is reality. We have to have acceptance of this happened. We have fault in the reality and fault in the loss and fault in being 5-2 and not being undefeated. But we also can't just sit around and still continue to, mourn and sit in this versus, okay, let's go to work. Let's watch the film. Here's all these plays, situations that would have made a difference, not just the last play where people are like, well, that was offensive pass interference on the last play. And so it's not just the last play. There's all kinds of plays before that we would have never got to that point. So just showing them all that and I'm okay, now we got to go forward. And now we got a chance to get better in a bye week, get healthy, improve on some things, and go win the rest of them.
Lane, it feels like it's been difficult to get the ball in the hands of guys like Juice Wells, Priest, Corn, and Watkins. Just what has made that challenging, and how do you think you can fix that going into the second half of the season?
That has been challenging. I wouldn't say, I think that, the Priest Corn challenge has been the lack of targets. I wouldn't say, in the last 2 games, I don't have the stats in front of me. Juice probably has more targets than anybody. I don't know, maybe that's wrong, but with Trey being hurt in both games in the second halves. So I wouldn't say that those are all the same situation. I think that Jordan was hurt early on. He's come into more of a role now the last 2 weeks. Actually, if you look closely, he actually started the last 2 games and started in Juice's place actually in the last game. So he's done a really good job.
How much have you seen Caden Lee grow from last year to this year? I think he's top 10 in SEC in receiving yards.
Yeah, I think Caden Lee, thanks for focusing on something positive. We've got the ball to him. Caden Lee's done a really good job. I think that speaks volumes of him that, with these other receivers that, that he started. So, you can kind of figure that out. It says a lot about how he's played and how valuable he is and made some really critical plays in the game.
Post-game, Jackson seemed just really committed to, the only thing that could console him was the thought, got to win out. Is that something that you as a coach try to say, team, a game at a time, or do you have to remind the team, hey, if you do win out, there's a lot on the table for a 2-loss SEC team?
Both things, but I think, when you want to talk about winning out all the time and all that, that's just out. What does that really mean? Yeah, that sounds great. Let's go win out. Well, okay, everybody can say that. You still got to go to winning 1 game at a time in the process of that versus the outcome. So we focus more on that. But I did say today, you're a really good team. You've shown, look, here's this really hard place to play against a really good team. Brian Kelly's never lost a night game there, and then here you guys are ready to win the game and kind of hand it away, and then they make an amazing play, to keep a drive alive. So I also tell them that to show, hey, you have the room, you have the ability where everybody doesn't have that to say, let's go win out. You have a chance to do that. And I think a lot of people don't realistically have that chance with their roster.
With Caden Lee coming out and doing real well, what's holding back or what's the difference with Aiden Williams?
Well, again, this is what happens in losses, which I get. Then it starts to go, well, how come this guy doesn't get the ball enough? How come this guy doesn't play? And all fair questions. And so I always say winning solves a lot of problems, losing creates a lot of them. Just other guys playing ahead of him, and he's done a really good job, and it just happens. Only so many people play, and there's only so many balls. No, I forgot one thing, that we were on that subject, and when I walked out, I remembered, someone who's been in here a long time said something to me yesterday, and they said, hey, I wanted to say, make sure you look at it as a positive, our fans are really upset about the game and really upset about the loss. And I said, yeah, I feel them. So are we. And they said, understand that for a long time that wasn't the case here. It would have been, wow, we went into LSU at night and played them really close and we were ahead the whole game. So, and I said, yeah. I said, you know, I'm glad that our fans are upset and I'm glad our fans feel like us. I'm glad that we've created a new expectation that we're supposed to go into LSU and win, and if we don't, we're upset. So I'm glad our fans feel like that. I'm glad that that's the expectation around here. Said that when the first year when we played Alabama close here, and said we didn't come here to play close games, we came here to win those games. And so I'm glad the feeling around has changed to the same thing. And like I said before, I encourage our fans, to play Oklahoma for the first time in the history of the school, I think, the history here. And so exciting SEC game after a bye week off and come with a great atmosphere and ready to go get back on track and win the next game. So. All right, thanks.